I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. My name's Jake, and I was basically living the dream, married to the woman I loved, planning for a future together. Everything seemed perfect. Her name, Jessica. She was beautiful, confident, and she could turn heads wherever she went. We've been together for 3 years, engaged for the last 6 months, and I could swear I knew everything about her, or so I thought. From the start, Jessica had an attitude that was a little bit bitchy, a little bit defensive. Small things, stuff I brushed off. She liked to lie sometimes, especially about minor things. I always caught her in little fibs, but I figured everyone does that. I never really pressed her on it. Honestly, I was just happy to have her with me, so I ignored those red flags. But then, a few weeks before the wedding, I started noticing some strange things. Her phone would go off at weird hours, and she'd quickly hide it or lock the screen. She started acting distant, a little more defensive when I asked her about her plans or who she was texting. She'd snap at me when I brought it up, saying I was paranoid, that she was just busy with wedding stuff and her job. Still, I couldn't help but feel something was off. I told myself I was just overthinking it, but that feeling didn't go away. One night I came home early from work because I wasn't feeling well. I decided to surprise her. I thought maybe we could have some time together before the chaos of the wedding. I got to her place, unlocked the door, and I heard noises coming from the bedroom. My heart started pounding. I crept closer, trying to listen. I overheard her moaning something like, "Yes, right there," and a voice I didn't recognize. It was strange. Part of me froze, part of me wanted to run. I peeked through the door crack and saw her in bed with a guy I'd never seen before. Tall, muscular, with dark hair. He looked like he belonged in a shirtless photo shoot. But what hit me like a freight train was that Jessica looked completely at ease, like she was in her element. No shame, no hesitation. Just pure sex right there in our home. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, I knew she was bitchy, she lied a lot, but this. How could she do this right before our wedding? My mind was racing, trying to process it all. I froze there, just watching her with this guy, my chest tight, my stomach turning. I didn't cry or scream. I just backed out quietly and went straight to my car. I sat there for a long moment, trying to breathe, trying to understand what I just witnessed. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't even know what to say. The next day, I was a mess. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, kept thinking about how she lied about everything. I'd always suspected she wasn't exactly honest, but this was on a whole new level. I had seen her cheat on me with her brother's best friend, and that fact shattered me. It wasn't just about betrayal, this was about how much of a lie my entire relationship had been. That night, I decided I'd confront her. I had to know why she did this, how long she'd been doing it, and what it meant for us. I didn't want to believe she was capable of this, but the evidence was undeniable. I was angry, hurt, and betrayed all at once. The wedding was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and now I was staring down the barrel of a future that might just be over before it even started. I sat there, trembling, trying to gather my thoughts. I told myself I'd give her a chance to come clean, but deep down, I knew this might be the end. I didn't want to be the fool who stayed with someone who could do this, not when I'd given her everything. Still, I had to hear her side of the story, even if I knew it was probably a lie. I was preparing for the worst, but I also knew I'd have to make a decision, one that would change everything. The next morning, I woke up feeling like someone had punched me in the chest. My mind kept cycling through everything I saw, everything I felt. I couldn't believe I'd actually seen her, Jessica, in bed with another guy, just hours before we were supposed to say our vows. It was like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from, but I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't let her get away with it, not without answers. I waited until she got home from work, which was a mistake in itself. The way she acted that day, so nonchalant, like she hadn't just fucked around with her brother's best friend in our bed, it made me want to scream. I was already boiling inside. When she finally walked through the door, I was sitting on the couch, looking her straight in the eyes. She saw the look on my face and immediately tried to brush it off. "What's wrong, Jake? You look like you saw a ghost," she said, flashing that bitchy smile of hers, the one that always made me question whether she was even capable of feeling guilt. I didn't hold back. I told her exactly what I saw, what I'd heard, everything. Her face twisted into a defensive smirk. "Oh, it's nothing, just a mistake. It doesn't mean anything. That guy's just a friend, nothing more. You're overthinking things, she said, brushing it off with her typical bullshit. I felt like I'd been punched again. I stared at her, feeling my blood boil. A friend? Jessica, I saw. You in bed with him. You weren't just talking, you were having sex. How could you lie to my face, especially now, just before our wedding? She rolled her eyes and scoffed. You're being paranoid. You always jump to conclusions. Maybe you're just jealous because I've been stressed about the wedding and you're imagining things. Honestly, Jake, I don't have time for this. We're getting married tomorrow, and I don't need this drama right now. That's when I realized I wasn't getting anywhere with her. She was a master manipulator, and she was already spinning her lies. I felt the anger rise in me, along with a deep sadness I couldn't shake. How could the woman I loved, the woman I trusted, do this? How could she betray me so openly, so shamelessly? I told her I knew the truth, that I saw her, and I wanted an honest answer. She crossed her arms, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, "You're making a huge mistake, Jake. You're overreacting. I love you, I swear." That was just a one-time thing, and it meant nothing. I was drunk, bored, and stupid. I don't know what I was thinking. Please don't ruin everything over a mistake. Her words felt like a punch to the gut. I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't. Deep down, I knew this wasn't just a mistake. Jessica had been lying to me for months, maybe longer. She was manipulative, sneaky, and she didn't care about the vows we were supposed to take tomorrow. I looked at her, this beautiful but completely deceitful woman, and I realized my entire life was about to change forever. I told her I needed some time to think, that I couldn't just go through with the wedding when I knew she'd been unfaithful. She snapped at me, called me crazy, said I was ruining everything because I couldn't handle the truth. But I knew I had to make a decision. That night, I stayed up, staring at the ceiling, feeling broken and betrayed. The woman I was supposed to marry, the woman I thought I knew, was a liar and a cheat. I kept asking myself how I could have missed all these signs, how I was so blind to her true nature. But there was no denying it anymore. The Jessica I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone I couldn't trust. I was hurt, furious, and feeling more alone than ever. I didn't want to be that guy who just forgave and forgot. I wanted to punish her, to make her feel what I was feeling, a mixture of rage, sadness, and utter disbelief. That night, I started plotting. I wasn't sure what revenge looked like yet, but I knew I couldn't let her get away with this. She crossed a line I couldn't ignore. I didn't want to be the guy who stayed with a cheater, but I also didn't want to just walk away without making her pay in some way. I had to find a way to make her regret what she'd done, to feel the cold sting of betrayal she'd given me. Now, I was just waiting for the right moment to strike, to turn this entire nightmare into something she wouldn't see coming. I didn't know exactly what that was yet, but I knew I'd figure it out. The wedding was canceled in my mind. The woman I thought I was going to marry was dead to me, and now I was just trying to survive the fallout. The days that followed were a blur of anger, confusion, and a strange sense of numbness. I couldn't focus on anything else. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her in bed with that guy. The way she looked, the sounds she made, the pure ease she had doing something she told me she'd never do. It was like a fucking tattoo on my brain, and no matter how much I tried to push it away, it kept coming back. Jessica, of course, kept denying everything. She was calling me every hour, trying to spin her lies, saying she was sorry I misunderstood, that it was just a mistake, and that I was overreacting. She played the victim, the innocent one who was just stressed and made a dumb mistake. She even accused me of being paranoid, which made bile rise in my throat. She told me she loved me, that she only wanted me, but I could see right through her bullshit. She was trying to keep everything intact, trying to save her own ass, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I started digging, trying to find some proof that I wasn't just losing my mind. I went through her phone, her emails, her social media accounts, everywhere I could think of that she might have left evidence, and I found more than I bargained for. There were messages, photos, even a few explicit texts that proved this wasn't a one-time thing. Jessica had been sneaking around for months. She had lied about her whereabouts, about her activities, and now it all came crashing down. She told me she was working late, meeting friends, going out for drinks. But I found texts where she was planning secret meetups, exchanging flirtatious messages, and even talking about how hot her brother's best friend was. I couldn't believe I'd missed the signs. God, I was so stupid. I beat myself up for not noticing earlier, for trusting her even when my gut told me something was off. One night, I decided I'd had enough. I called her over. She showed up looking all sweet and innocent, like she hadn't just been caught cheating on me. I sat her down and laid everything out, proof, my feelings, how betrayed I felt. Her eyes widened, and for a second I thought she'd break down. But no. Jessica looked at me with that bitchy smirk again and said, "You're overreacting. This isn't what it looks like, Jake. You're making it into some big deal. I swear I love you and I'd never do anything to hurt you." I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her and tell her she was a fucking liar, but I kept my cool, at least on the surface. Instead, I told her I needed space, that I couldn't even look at her without feeling disgusted. I told her I was done with the wedding, done pretending everything was okay. Her face went pale and she started crying. Not because she was sorry, but because she knew she was losing control, losing her perfect little game. That night, as she left my apartment, I felt a strange mix of relief and anger. I knew I had to think about what I was going to do next. Part of me wanted to destroy her, to make her regret every lie, every secret, every moment of betrayal. But another part, the rational part, knew I couldn't just go scorched earth. I needed a plan, a way to make her see what she'd lost, what she'd thrown away. And then I remembered something. Jessica liked to be in control. She liked to lie, manipulate, twist everything to her advantage. But I knew her well enough to know she hated being humiliated, especially in public. She'd always been the bitchy queen bee, commanding attention and respect, until she got caught. That's when she'd go into damage control mode. So I started thinking about how to turn the tables. I wanted her to feel the pain, the shame, the regret she'd given me. I didn't want to just leave her, not without making sure she understood the full extent of her betrayal. I wanted her to realize that her actions had consequences, that lying and cheating would always come back to haunt her. The plan started forming in my mind. I'd expose her to her family, her friends, everyone who thought she was this perfect girl. I'd make her own reputation crumble, just like she'd done to mine. That was the revenge I wanted, one that would strip her of her lies, her pride, her sense of security. I wanted her to feel the same gut-wrenching betrayal I felt, only magnified. But even as I plotted that, I knew this was just the beginning. The worst was still ahead. How do you repair yourself after something like this? How do you look at the woman you loved and see her as anything but the biggest liar and cheat in your life? I didn't have the answer yet. All I knew was that I'd never trust her again, and I'd spend every waking moment making sure she paid for what she did, one way or another. The days turned into a whirlwind of planning and emotional chaos. I stayed in my apartment more often, trying to piece together what was left of my sanity. Everywhere I looked, I saw her face, Jessica's smile, her bitchy attitude, the way she lied effortlessly. I felt like I was drowning, but at the same time I was determined to fight back. I wasn't going to let her walk away clean from this. If she thought she could cheat and lie her way out of it, she had another thing coming. I started reaching out to people she knew, her friends, her siblings, her coworkers. I needed allies, people who saw her true colors. I wasn't planning to expose everything just yet, but I wanted to make sure they knew she wasn't the woman they thought she was, that she was a liar, a cheat, and a manipulator. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. Jessica thrived on control. Her bitchy attitude was her armor, her lies her shield. But I was about to strip all that away. One night I got a call from her brother, Mike. It was unexpected, but I figured I owed him at least that much honesty. I told him everything I knew about her affair, her lies, the sex with his best friend. I saw the shock in his voice, heard it in his silence. It was a lot for him to process, and I didn't expect him to be on my side immediately. Still, I wanted the truth out in the open. I told him I wasn't out to ruin her, but I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay either. Mike's reaction surprised me. Instead of defending Jessica, he told me he'd seen her change lately, being more bitchy, secretive, and distant. He said he'd always thought she was a little manipulative, but he never suspected she'd cheat like that. That made me feel a little less alone. I knew she'd lied to me, but now I had someone on my side, someone who knew her as well as I did, maybe even better. Meanwhile, Jessica kept trying to contact me, pleading, crying, begging me to forgive her. She sent me long texts. She was sorry. She didn't mean to hurt me. She loved me so much. But honestly, I was just sick of her bullshit. I couldn't believe I had spent so much time trusting her, believing her lies. She was a bitch, plain and simple, and the worst part was that she knew exactly how to manipulate me into feeling guilty. One evening, I decided I needed to see her face to face. I texted her and told her I'd meet her, only to tell her I wanted to break things off for good. I wanted to see her reaction, if she'd cry, yell, or just try to spin her way out of it again. When she showed up, she looked like a mess. Eyes red, makeup smudged, the usual bitchy attitude replaced by desperation. I told her I knew about everything, the sex, the lies, the affair, and that I was done. Done with her manipulations, done with her lies, done with pretending I didn't see through her. I told her she was a selfish, manipulative woman who thought she was untouchable. I said I didn't want her in my life anymore, not after what she did. She tried to beg, to scream, to tell me I was wrong, but I cut her off. I looked her in the eyes and said, "You can lie all you want, Jessica, but I saw what you did, and I'm not stupid. You're not the girl I thought I knew. You're just a bitch who thought she could have her cake and eat it too. But I'm done. I'm better off without you and your bullshit." She stormed off crying, but I didn't care anymore. I felt a strange sense of relief, even if it was mixed with bitterness and anger. I knew I'd never trust her again, and honestly, I didn't want to. I'd spent too long being naive, believing in her pretty face and fake smile. Now I saw her for what she really was, nothing but a manipulative liar who thought she could get away with anything. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, feeling a strange combination of freedom and heartbreak. Jessica was out of my life, and I knew it was for the best. She'd hurt me in ways I never thought possible, but I was starting to realize that I deserved better. I wasn't sure what the future held, but I knew I'd rebuild from this. I'd learn from it. And I'd make damn sure she never did this to anyone else again. The betrayal cut deep, but I refused to let it define me. I promised myself I'd come out stronger, even if I had to start from scratch. This wasn't the ending I wanted, but it was the one I needed. And as I looked out at the night sky through my window, I felt a strange sense of clarity. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was done being the victim. Now I was taking back control. The weeks after I cut Jessica out of my life were the hardest I've ever experienced. Every day felt like a battle to keep myself together. I'd wake up feeling hollow and angry, haunted by the images of her in bed with that guy, the lies she told, the way she played me like a fool. But I knew I couldn't let her win. I had to channel that pain into something stronger, something that would make me move forward. I started focusing on myself, hitting the gym harder, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected, and trying to rebuild my confidence. I knew I'd been naive to trust her so blindly, but I also realized I'd let her control too much of my life. That realization fueled my determination. I didn't want to be that guy who got betrayed and stayed broken. I needed to take control, even if it meant doing things I'd never considered before. Meanwhile, the fallout from my revelation started spreading. Jessica's family was furious when they found out. Her brother, Mike, was especially pissed. He felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry at her for cheating with his best friend. It got to the point where I was getting calls from her siblings, trying to piece everything together. I told them everything I knew, proof, messages, everything. They were stunned, some even ashamed of her. I could hear the disappointment in their voices. That felt good, honestly. Jessica always pretended she was this perfect girl, but now everyone saw her true colors. I also took a gamble and started sharing my story on a few online forums dedicated to relationships and betrayal. I didn't want to broadcast it everywhere, but I needed to get it out to process everything. It was cathartic to read others' stories, to see I wasn't alone, and to get some advice on how to handle the aftermath. More than anything, I wanted to warn others trust can be a fragile thing, and if you're not careful, someone you love can tear it apart without warning. One day, I received an unexpected message from a woman named Sarah, someone I'd met briefly at a party a few months earlier. She said she'd read my story, and she understood exactly what I was going through. She was going through her own heartbreak. Her boyfriend had cheated on her, and she was feeling just as lost. We started talking regularly, sharing our pain, our frustrations. It was strange how someone from outside my world could understand exactly what I was feeling. She became a kind of confidant, and I found myself looking forward to our conversations. That connection helped me heal faster. I realized I wasn't weak for feeling wounded. I was human, and I deserved someone who wouldn't betray me, who wouldn't lie and manipulate. I told myself that I'd learn from what happened, that I'd become stronger and more cautious in the future. I knew I'd eventually find someone better, someone who truly valued honesty and respect. But right now, I just needed to focus on myself. The most surreal thing was how Jessica kept trying to contact me, even after I made it clear I wanted nothing to do with her. She'd send me texts, long apologies, tears in her messages. Sometimes she'd claim she was sorry for everything. Other times she'd try to make me feel guilty for ruining her life. But I didn't buy it anymore. Her tears and apologies were just her way of clinging to whatever shred of control she still had. I knew she was used to getting her way, used to lying her way out of things, but I wasn't going to let her manipulate me again. One night, I finally decided I'd had enough of her drama. I blocked her number, deleted her from social media, and told a few friends to do the same. I needed space, real space, to heal. I refused to let her mess with my head anymore. I knew I'd get through this even if it killed me a little each day. I'd been betrayed in ways I never imagined, but I wasn't going to let her win. I was done playing her game. Looking back now, I realize what a huge lesson this was. Trust is fragile, and sometimes people you think you know best can surprise you in the worst ways. Jessica wasn't just a liar. She was a manipulator who thought she could have her cake and eat it too. But I learned that revenge isn't about destroying someone else. It's about reclaiming your own power, your own peace of mind. And I was finally starting to feel like I was doing that. I don't have all the answers yet, and I'm still healing. But I do know one thing. I deserve better than someone who cheats, lies, and manipulates. From now on, I'll be more cautious, more careful with my trust. Because once it's broken, it's damn hard to fix. But I'll never let someone like Jessica do that to me again. That's the biggest lesson of all. As I sit here reflecting on everything that's transpired, I realize I've come a long way from the guy who was shattered, betrayed, and feeling like the world had crumbled beneath him. The pain from Jessica's betrayal was almost unbearable, but in the end, it forced me to wake up and see things clearly. I've learned that trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild, and that some people are just not worth the pain they cause. Jessica was that person for me. She took everything I had and threw it back in my face with her lies and cheating. But I also learned something equally important. I am stronger than I thought. I didn't let her destroy me. Instead, I channeled that hurt into growth, into finding my footing again. I started putting myself first, rebuilding my life step by step. The process wasn't easy. There were days when I wanted to drown in self-pity, days when I questioned whether I'd ever trust again. Yet every small victory, getting out of bed, making it to work, reconnecting with friends, proved I was still here, still fighting. The betrayal taught me to be more cautious, more aware. I realize now that people can hide their true selves behind a pretty face or a charming smile. Jessica's bitchy, manipulative side was always there. I just didn't see it because I was blinded by love and hope. But facing her truth, and the truth about myself, gave me a clarity I never had before. I know I'll never accept being lied to like that again. I'll be more careful, more guarded, but also more open to genuine love when the right person comes along. I've also come to peace with the fact that some relationships are meant to end, especially when they're built on lies and deception. It's better to be alone than in a relationship riddled with betrayal. It's painful, sure, but it's necessary. Jessica's actions showed me that she wasn't the woman I thought she was. She was just a bitch who thought she could get away with anything. And I refused to let her define my future. Her betrayal wasn't the end of my story. It was the wake-up call I needed to finally take control of my life. Now, I focus on what truly matters: my happiness, my mental health, and building a future without her. I've started dating again cautiously, but I refuse to rush. Trust needs time, and I want to be sure that whoever I let into my life next is honest, respectful, and worth my time. Jessica taught me that lesson the hard way, but I'll carry it with me for the rest of my life. Looking back, I honestly believe this was a blessing in disguise. I was lucky to find out the truth before walking down the aisle, before tying myself to someone who didn't deserve my love or my trust. It's not easy to accept that the woman you loved was capable of such deceit, but I've learned that sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself again. And I've done just that. So, I want anyone reading this to know, trust your instincts, pay attention to the red flags, and never settle for someone who doesn't respect you. Because in the end, your happiness depends on knowing your worth. Jessica's betrayal hurt like hell, but it freed me from a lie I was too blind to see. I'm done being the victim. Now I'm just moving forward, wiser, stronger, and more grateful for the lessons I've learned. And even if it still hurts sometimes, I know I'll be okay. Because I've finally taken back control of my life. And that's all that matters.